Welcome back to Joe Hoops. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Today, we'll be talking about 7 of the craziest NBA stories that might shock you. Coming in at number 7, we have Shaq getting revenge on a teammate for a prank he pulled on him by peeing in his shoes. Shaq will always be known as being one of the most dominant players of all time. Most of his competitors never wanted to cross him on the court, just because they knew they couldn't stop him when he got into the paint. However, Shaq was known for being a charismatic, funny guy who his teammates and other NBA players got to experience. During his time with the Phoenix Suns, he took a prank to a whole new different level with his teammate Lou Amundsen. Shaq had just gotten his truck filled with tiny pink styrofoam pieces, and Shaq didn't take this lightly.
Your ass is dead, Lou.
And as revenge, he grabbed his teammate's shoes, takes them in the bathroom, and pees in them. If you thought that was bad, he also went on to mess around with Lou's hairbrush, comb, and tamper with his mouthguard, which he wore during games. Note to self, never go pranking Shaq anytime soon. Next at number 6, we have J.R. Smith's lawyer buying courtside seat tickets to serve him papers after refusing to pay his lawyer. J.R. Smith had just been accused of breaking a player's jaw in a pickup game at a Houston rec center. J.R. ended up hiring a high-profile lawyer, Rusty Hardin, to take the case. Hardin went on to getting the case settled with J.R. not having to do any jail time. However, when it came to paying, J.R. was nowhere to be seen. Rusty Hardin was owed $22,751.53 in legal fees and was going to get the money back one way or another. Hardin hired an attorney to take the case and get the money he was owed from J.R. Hardin's attorney told J.R. he had till 6 p.m. to pay his legal fees, otherwise he'd be served court papers while he was on the court, as both Rusty and his attorney booked courtside tickets to do so. However, with less than 2 hours left before the deadline, J.R. paid a big chunk of his debt, in which stopped Rusty from going through with his plan. J.R. ended up blaming miscommunication for the situation, and Rusty's attorney referred to it as a three-pointer at the buzzer. Coming up next at number 5, we have Lou Williams getting caught going to the strip club for chicken wings when he was on an excused absence for a funeral for his mentor. Lou Williams has had a solid NBA career, but in 2020, when COVID put a stop to everything, the NBA decided to create a bubble for NBA players so they could continue playing under a quarantine facility, which no one was allowed to leave unless given permission, and to enter, you had to do a mandatory 10-day quarantine before being allowed back into the general population of the bubble, unless you had approval to be excused, which meant your quarantining time went to only 4 days. However, Lou Williams had other plans before returning back from a family funeral. Williams decided to stop off at his favorite strip club, where he's a regular at, and also has a type of chicken wing named after him, called the Lou Will Lemon Pepper Barbecue.
They are called the Lou Will Barbecue with lemon pepper sprinkle.
He was then photographed inside of there, which were posted on social media, in which the NBA found out straight away. This ultimately led to an investigation being done. Determined Williams would have to serve a 10-day quarantine instead of the 4-day originally intended. I hope those chicken wings were worth it, Lou Will. Here at number 4, with another crazy NBA story, is when Kentavious Caldwell-Pope served a 25-day jail sentence and had to do it with an ankle monitor on. If there was a dream jail sentence, it was probably this. On March 29, 2017, KCP was arrested for driving under the influence while he was still playing for the Detroit Pistons. He later decided to plead guilty on a misdemeanor charge of allowing someone under the influence to drive his vehicle. KCP went on to be given a sentence of 12 months on probation. However, KCP's probation didn't last long. As part of the agreement, he was to take multiple drug and alcohol tests, which he missed many of, which resulted in him being given a 25-day jail sentence. KCP did his time in the Seal Beach Police Department Center in Southern California. Luckily, KCP was under a work release program, which allowed him to leave to participate in practices and play games. The main condition that he had to follow was to take a breath test when he returned to the facility after his games and practices. In addition, KCP was only allowed to play in home games, since he wasn't allowed to leave California.
It's not your average jail. It's not something alarming because he's still able to play and he's still able to attend practices. He just has to wear this monitor and can't travel and go to, these away practices.
At this point, he had just signed to the Lakers and ended up starting the first 25 games he played for them, and then went on to sign a 3-year extension with the team. Maybe next time you'll take your drug test, KCP. Coming up at number 3, we have Gilbert Arenas pooing in his teammates' shoes. Yep, you heard that right. Pranking your teammates is a key in every NBA team locker room. If done correctly, it strengthens bonds between teammates. Some pranks are really funny. However, some go over the top, with this one by Gilbert Arenas. It came after Andre Blatch, Arenas' teammate at the time, had just had his suit cut up by two of his teammates, Deshaun Stevenson and Antonio Daniels. Andre then picked up all of Arenas' clothes and threw them all into the jacuzzi. When Gilbert Arenas walked in and found all his clothes in there, he went into the locker room and asked what had happened to his clothes, and his teammates said it was Andre Blatch. So Arenas asked why, and Andre believed it was him who was involved in the cutting up of his suit.
What he did was, I came in the locker room, and I guess at the time it was Deshaun Stevenson and Antonio Daniels. I guess they cut his suit up, because I don't know what he did to them.
Yeah.
But any prank that goes on in here, for some reason, I'm responsible.
Yeah.
So when I get here, all my clothes in my locker in the jacuzzi.
And so Arenas decided to take this revenge prank to a whole new level by taking his shoes later that night and pooing in them. Next time someone wants to prank Gilbert Arenas, make sure to hide your shoes. Now at number 2, we're coming in with Paul Pierce being stabbed 11 times in the face, neck, and back while having a bottle broken over his head. The Celtics should be very thankful to Paul Pierce for helping them to win a championship in 2008. However, one night on September 25, 2000, could have changed that, with Pierce nearly being killed that night. Paul Pierce was only 2 years into his career, developing into a future star and franchise player. One night at the Buzz Club in the Theater District in Boston, Paul Pierce was out with several friends and a teammate of his when a fight broke out in the club. When Pierce tried to break it up, they turned onto him before they stabbed him 11 times across his neck, back, and face. Luckily enough, he was wearing a leather jacket, which helped to protect him. Pierce ended up being left for dead, but if it wasn't for his brother being there at the time, he was able to rush him to the hospital. Paul wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for his brother. Pierce underwent lung surgery to repair the damage suffered from the multiple stab wounds. He is really lucky to be alive today and to have accomplished all the milestones that he has.
Man, that night changed my life, man.
Now finally, at number 1 is the famous Matt Barnes and Derek Fisher altercation, which headlined the NBA back in 2015. Matt Barnes was playing for Memphis at the time, and Derek Fisher was the New York Knicks head coach. Both Barnes and Fisher were teammates for 2 seasons from 2010 to 2012. Barnes' wife and himself had gone separate ways at this point, but were still trying to be good parents by keeping an open line of communication. However, one day Barnes was chilling at home when he started receiving a FaceTime call from his son Carter. It was 10 o'clock at night, and Barnes knew something must be up, as his son should have been in bed at this time. When Barnes started talking to his son, he could tell something was off, and in which Barnes asked him what was wrong. In which his son Carter responded by covering his face with a pillow and saying, "Mommy's friend Derek is here," referring to Derek Fisher. Barnes became enraged that his former teammate, who he thought was his friend, would tell him he would be dating his ex-wife, and also for his ex-wife to have not told him Fisher was coming over to be around his kids, especially as Barnes was still paying for the house too. Barnes got up and got dressed and took his teammate's car, as his cars had just been moved down to Memphis. Barnes drove down blasting Tupac. When he arrived, he jumped the fence as he didn't have a key anymore and walked into a small party his ex-wife had set up, where he saw Fisher with his arm around his ex-wife.
I see Derek with his arm around Gloria, so I just fired on him, stuck him.
He then viciously punched Fisher, which sent him into a sliding glass door, and everyone at the party began screaming. By the time the police arrived, Fisher had already gone. Fisher lied to the New York Knicks about missing a part of training camp so he could hang out with Matt Barnes' ex-wife. Fisher ended up not pressing charges on Barnes in the end. Fast forward 7 years, and Fisher's married to Barnes' ex-wife, and Matt Barnes has gone and remarried too. Barnes says everything got buried under the hatchet, as they're still together. That was some crazy NBA stories you've just heard, and hopefully you may have found out something you didn't know before. If you liked the video, please give a like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.